Anytime I read a title for an episode, not even just with Fruits Basket, just anime in general, and it throws me for a loop, I'm like, okay, we're kind of insulting in the title. And then I kind of get my thoughts. I'm like, okay, this is clearly what's going to be happening in this episode. And based on the title of this week's episode of Fruits Basket, I expected a comfy episode. It kind of just seemed like a comedic title. Boy, was I wrong. I mean, there was some humor. There was some adorable kind of like swimsuit moments, sure, little shenanigans. But this was a very dramatic episode and setting in motion quite a few different plot lines that I'm really intrigued to learn more about. I mean, one is something that we've all been interested in for many, many months now, which is, of course, the hat, which now has the 100% confirmation that it was Yuki's hat, which is nice that they didn't beat around the bush too long with that plot line, because it was pretty obvious at this point in time whose hat it was, so it's nice that they didn't still try to say, ooh, is it going to be Kyo or is it going to be Yuki? No, they're like, 100% we know, just obviously Toru doesn't. I mean, you had the whole Rin and then Shigure content, which, man, did that throw me for a loop. I mean, when she got introduced in the episode, it's like, okay, I mean, maybe there's going to be a little talking, and then it got real sexual real fast, at least in terms of the pose that they were doing, and I had no idea what they were going with, so that's going to be intriguing. And then just Shigure and Agito being like, hey, why don't you come along for a summer vacation? You never quite know what this character is up to, and that's what's really intriguing, because sometimes you look at Shigure and say, oh, he's a good guy, he's someone who's looking after it, but then you get moments like the end of the episode, and you're like, I don't know what to feel about you, and that's a really intriguing thing. Often shows like Fruits Basket, they make the mistake of making it so you understand what a character is thinking or feeling pretty much right off the get-go, or at least by the middle point of the first season, or even the first core of a first season if it's going to be like 24 episodes, and that's disappointing. Character like Shigure, we've now had for what, 31 episodes now, and I still don't know what he's thinking at any given moment. That's how you write a character. If you're going to put someone like him and make him seem mysterious, absolutely give him a multi-layer persona that you never know. Is he playing 4D chess, or is he just a good or bad person and we just are misreading the situation? I love that we don't exactly know, which is why him inviting Octo, it's like, I don't trust you. I'm like, sure, we'll see what happens, I guess. I don't think that's gonna go over well, but hey, you know, maybe the plan will work out, whatever that plan may be. You, of course, have the reintroduction of Hero's content, which honestly was great. It was nice to see how far the lad's come in comparison to what he did. He used to steal the book with the picture of Mom in it, and now he's giving it back, even though he's still blunt and kind of calling things out. That's kind of a child thing to do. You don't really understand how rude you can be, especially when clearly there's some, like, hidden trauma that she's trying to keep hidden, which is, of course, why does she only talk about her mother and have a picture of her mother? Why not her father? That's something pretty much any kid would do, just he's a little more blunt and to the point with it, which, goddamn, seeing her shook up about that is quite interesting. I mean, I've always praised the fact that Toru isn't this perfect Mary Sue character. She is incredibly flawed, and just as flawed as many of the Somas, if not more, at certain points in time. So the fact that she appears to have this very bubbly and perfect persona, but really is just a ticking time bomb waiting to self-detonate in terms of just blowing herself up for others' happiness, kind of ignoring her own self-worth, is always really intriguing to me. In this episode, I thought we were getting a swimsuit episode, and even the swimsuit content didn't function in the traditional sense, so like even that felt actually pretty refreshing. Like, this episode wasn't the flashiest and most, like, out there in terms of production. It did its job, and sure, at certain points it didn't move around as much as maybe I would have liked, but in terms of the content, in terms of how, like, when they're going, like, really dramatic right off the get-go with the thunder and lightning, I'm like, this is already going to be a great episode for sure, and honestly, it was. I was actually surprised, I'd say the most, by how many, like, plot lines they were really throwing in our face, while also having some pretty fun slice of life content, so it didn't feel like it needed 3 episodes, which, when you kind of break down everything that happened, you would probably argue that's 2 or 3 episodes worth of content. Not only is it like main plot-centric and character-centric, you literally have slice of life banter and just shenanigans in the water. Yet it felt like it was a very smooth episode. It felt like 40 minutes, and that's not a bad thing. Sometimes when you say an episode feels longer than it is, it means it's bloated, it's dragged out, there's a lot of filler. No, not here. It felt like the slower paced stuff was a good time to just relax, feel like we were a part of the cast here. We're having fun at the beach, and then all the heavy content, we're like, oh my god, this is going to be amazing. And the fact that you know Fruits Basket is going to be a complete adaptation is what makes it so intriguing. The fact that you don't feel like all these things that are getting set up are just going to be left blue balls, and it's like, okay, go read the manga. No, we know the anime is actually going to adapt everything, so that makes me incredibly excited. I mean, the Rin content is still, it's intriguing. Shigure and Rin, I don't know what the hell they're going on there. I'm really excited to see more. The Agito Shigure content is a little more like, we're used to that type of stuff, so it's going to be interesting what his plan is, because I don't think he's an evil, scummy bastard, but at the same time, he definitely has had his moments of villain-looking eyes and just how he's perceiving a situation, and you don't know exactly what his end goal truly is, because he doesn't seem like a bad person, but at the same time, because we don't know what he's thinking, it's very easy for us to get lost in the darker train of thought. But I mean, I'm always going to hope for the best for all the characters, including Octo as well. Like, there could just be a curse that's causing this character to be so horrible, I guess is probably the nicest way to put it. And it'll be interesting to see if, like, that curse could be broken, and maybe that will change the persona. So that content's all well and good. The hero stuff was great because, I mean, you can still argue it's just emotional kids, sure, but I mean, at the end of the day, that's what Fruits Basket is. It's emotional kids, emotional teenagers, the emotional youth, and it's how you handle those emotions and take those struggles and find a more positive resolution. So the fact that because of a little brat basically saying something maybe he shouldn't have, it's now transitioning Toru into a new character arc where she's actually terrified and is going to have to face some things that maybe she was trying to keep hidden. And of course, you have that entire kind of reunion at the end with those kids, and it was just nice to see that, because the hero is still a character who I'm shocked I like as much as I do, but Fruits Basket makes any persona and character archetype work flawlessly, at least for myself. When it comes to the hat situation, I'm probably can speak for most people, that's the most intriguing part, because we've been waiting for this for so long, and even though they didn't give us the full reveal, of course Yuki had a couple of moments where he was trying to bring it up, it's nice that they're basically kind of like sprinkling it out throughout the story, where you're like, okay, the hat is clearly important, clearly going to be either Yuki or it's going to be Kyo, and now we got the confirmation of who it is, and just based on everything that we know about Yuki and how isolated he was, the fact that he would like wear the hat to sneak out of basically the mansion and basically pursue something, just try to find his own happiness, and just the fact that Toru doesn't remember who it is, but for him it's still a very precious memory, and the fact that she kept that hat around all this time despite it literally being garbage, it's worn out to the point that no one would wear it, and let alone keep it as a souvenir. It's going to be interesting to see, like, once that conversation happens, what the two's relationship is going to look like, because you can always take a look at Toru and how she's interacting with all these characters, and you can say, oh, they're just giving her a bunch of potential romantic routes, but I've always disagreed with that statement, because clearly they're setting up each character to have their own thing, and the fact that Yuki has never had a family, to me, still says Yuki wants family out of Toru more than anything else. Obviously, I could still be completely wrong with that assessment, but based on everything we've seen so far, that's exactly what I think is, and I mean, the fact that he's never had a family, he's probably pretty confused about that fact alone. So whenever that conversation does pop up, I'm going to be intrigued to see what they're going to take it, because it's probably my most anticipated plotline that at least we know about as of right now in terms of the Fruits Basket story. A close second would obviously be Akito coming in to, I don't know, set off a nuclear bomb. It's going to be horrible, but I'm really excited to see, because this is a character who sends chills up your spine, gets you full of rage, but also you're thanking the addition to the character, because the story would be a lot less interesting if this character wasn't a part of the cast. Overall, this was an eventful episode. Goddamn was it eventful. It had a lot going on, yet it didn't feel bloated in the slightest. There's a couple of hiccups in terms of just some static imagery that weren't the sharpest out there, but honestly, this was a damn close to perfect episode for Fruits Basket, which honestly this season has been doing non-stop pretty much. One of the craziest aspects that I think the visuals had going for it in this episode was the dramatic for sure. I love how they start off with like lightning and things like that, but then there's moments where you look at Toru or even Yuki's more like subtle reactions where he's not doing too much, but you can tell he's lost in thought, and at the same time you're a little scared about what he's thinking. And then of course you have Toru who's just sunken in just sorrow and regret, and you're like, oh my god, just give her that smile again, just please do something. So it was really nice to see how they definitely went in certain key moments, which then, just based on the story and how it was written, it just highlighted and just kind of complemented it tenfold. And something that's actually pretty interesting is the bathing suit, like swimsuit beach style episode, or at least the chunk of this episode. That's generally pretty generic, but they didn't really go fan service with it. I mean, everyone's bathing suits were like normal. They weren't slutty, they weren't just here to show some skin, and then when the characters made remarks about showing skin or seeing her in a tight swimsuit, they made it funny, and that's something I've always loved about Fruits Basket, is they've avoided cliche by either making it funny or twisting something on its head so much that it becomes something that you're just like, I love this character now. I thought you were a generic, just pretty boy, and oh boy was I completely wrong. So I'm not surprised in the slightest. Like, they probably could have had an entire episode dedicated to swimsuit episode, and it probably would have still been a good episode of Fruits Basket. Maybe not amazing, but it still would have been solid nonetheless. So the fact that it can just have like sections where you're like, oh, I've seen enough anime, and even if you haven't seen anime, you've probably seen enough memes that you know anime loves its bathing suits, so they do it a lot. So the fact that they made it actually feel like, oh, you're seeing characters like really trying to connect with Toru, or just seeing characters really putting themselves out there. It's nice how it didn't feel like just a random disposable event. Sure, it was slice of life, but slice of life doesn't mean disposable, and it definitely was setting in motion with the hat and things like that, Kyo doing his own thing. So it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do, especially because we're getting into some more serious territory. The darker, more serious and mature it comes, like, it'll be interesting to see how they incorporate slice of life and just general banter, especially the more characters snap or break or just mature and evolve over time. As always, let me know your thoughts and opinions, especially for Source Material readers, how you enjoying the adaptation, and for anime originals, where do you think it's going to go with the story and just everything that has been setting up? Do let me know. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, share, your support, remember to hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.